I didn't like my 10th birthday.
What went wrong on your 10th birthday?
My mom forgot.
Your parents forgot your birthday. Okay, that. Did they? Yeah. Did they ever remember? Like, oh my God, we're wrong. We're so sorry.
Well, I started yelling.
It's my birthday. Okay, all right. Who's got better than someone forgot your birthday? You know, sports loss, injury, dog got ran over. Come on. You guys all. Thank you, Tyler.
Fell off a ladder and broke my arm, and we were like an hour and a half away from the hospital. And when we drove to the hospital, we kept going over train tracks. Yeah.
So that's just excruciating. Where were we and what were we doing on a ladder?
We were in Ohio, in Hubbard, Ohio, where my grandma lives. It's a town that no one knows about.
The Youngstown, very familiar with Hubbard. Oh yeah, Hubbard, Warren, Moline, River Valley. Oh yeah.
And it was raining, and I was like 6. And I thought it'd be fun to climb up the ladder, and I fell off.
So you were just like, oh, this is going to be cool. And snap.
Yep.
All right. How are you an hour away from a hospital in Hubbard?
Well,
You're
because
in a real hospital.
and because my dad didn't know the area.
No. All right. Allie, we'll get to Alexander.
Freshman year picture day in gym class, I knocked my face on the pull-up bar and got a massive black eye.
No way. It's because you were just crushing those pull-ups, right? All right. All right. That's got to be a great, do you have that photo?
You can see my eye. Well, there's a whole bunch of concealer on it, but you can tell.
All right. That's pretty bad. All right, Alexander.
So one time in like elementary school or something, I did flip off the swing, and I broke my arm,
All right.
or my wrist, and
Like you were swinging, you were going to do a full, like,
no, I did a
somersault.
full flip, but then I landed like this, and I broke my arm.
Aren't you a diver? Don't you do those?
Oh, well, wait, it gets better. So I went to the nurse, and the nurse was like, she called my mom, was like, oh, your son's arm is definitely broken, and my mom said, we really can't have him breaking his arm, and then she hung up.
So she left you at school with like a broken arm?
Yeah.
That's hardcore, Mother Night.
Mad Bell, send it back to math.
All right, Eric.
I want to say it was the 7th or 8th grade, and I was playing baseball, and I fouled the ball off into my eye, and I broke my nose, and yeah, it wasn't a great day.
Wow, so not only eye wound, but broken nose.
Yeah.
All right. Father Lonigan.
I got one for Mitchell.
Well, Mitchell doesn't want to tell us. Do you mind, Mitchell?
I got hit in the face with a baseball and I texted my mom and I like let her know, because usually my mom like freaks out about stuff like this. I text her and she just responded K. It was like I had like a black eye all of a sudden.
Chris.
Okay, first off, do you ever have my brother? Joe Carter?
Super Joe Carter? No, I haven't.
No. Well, basically, when I was like, it was like before, maybe like in kindergarten or 2nd grade, I was running around in the backyard, and my older brother had found a piece of broken PVC pipe. And like any good middle schooler would, he was just, screwing around, throwing it up in the air, catching it as it came down. And I of course did not notice until he threw it up really high, spinning, came down, slashed the back of my head open, and that was pretty fun.
That's bad. All right.
He told me it wasn't bleeding at first.
Maybe you're like, no, I feel it. Yeah.
Then I was rushed to the hospital, and then I got staples. It was pretty good.
All right. That's bad. That's bad. Yes,
I actually
sir.
thought of a good one. So when I was in like 1st grade, me and my family like went to a ranch for a weekend, and they had like horse riding. Yeah, and so they had like horse riding, and like I don't know really what was going on, but they let like a different horse like be in the front this time, and the other horse was mad about it, and I was riding the horse that was angry, and then they like all the horses like freak out over like some birds or something, and they took off, and it bucked me off. My foot got caught in the thing, and it was like full on sprinting. And my foot was stuck. Yes, exactly. And I was getting dragged for a good like 50 yards.
Awesome.
My back was all like destroyed.
Mitchell, that's 2 for you. All right, Judah and then RJ.
All right, that kind of reminded me of something. So, probably I was pretty young. I can't remember. I was probably 9 or 10. One of my grandpa's friends put me up on a horse that was kind of young and wasn't completely trained, and he thought I could handle it. And basically, the road that I was riding on went around like a fence that was like, it was just the post, and like it joined right there. Well, anyways, the horse, we were going around the road, and then it kind of just started going off to the right, and his shoulder hit the post, and then my knee slammed in the post, and I flew off backwards. It hurt pretty bad.
Did you
I was
break your
alright.
leg?
No, but
Yeah.
it was pretty bad. It was pretty good.
Sir, yes, sir.
So, I was going on a summer camp to the Nantahala River a couple years ago, and Nantahala River is really good for whitewater rafting, and it was really fun. But 2 days before we were supposed to go whitewater rafting, the camp counselor said, "All right, we're gonna have a campfire tonight. We're gonna make some s'mores." And as soon as he said that, I looked up, and I was like, "All right, it's cool. I like s'mores. S'mores are food.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome." And so he got the 2 strongest people in the camp to start splitting firewood. I was one of those 2 people. And I was, at the time, the strongest person.
You weren't using your head where you are.
No, I was not. Instead of using my head, I used a small hatchet, which, first mistake, don't use a hatchet because there's not enough weight behind it. Second mistake, I was wearing tennis shoes. Third mistake, I was wearing short socks. Fourth mistake, I was wearing shorts. And
You weren't wearing a shirt either.
Were you clothed?
yes, I was splitting the firewood, and for a while it went okay. It was split a lot of them, but then there was one piece that was kind of wobbly, and just as I started to come down, it wobbled a little to the left, so the lance and went straight into my leg. But then I tried to pull it out, and I almost couldn't. So I tugged on it, and it didn't come out. And then I pulled on it again, and I flung the hatchet behind me as I fell over. And I got up, and I was hopping on one foot, holding my leg. And
Wait, did you hatchet your leg?
Yes. Yes. And so I'm hopping around on one foot, grabbing my leg, and my friend looks over at me, my buddy, and he just looks at me and says, "It doesn't hurt that much, can it?" And I just moved my hands, and I just stood there. And he just ran.
RJ, I think we're going to give you the prize next period. All right. I had a couple bad days. I have a getting bit in the face by a dog story. That was bad. I have my own horse story where a horse took me through a set of 2x10s. The top one I broke with my head. All right. I did break it though. All right. I got a Teflon plate up here, and I pee when I go by the microwave. Not really. All right. And another one was in Missouri, where my van broke down. It was 100 degrees. I had to get it fixed. I had to pitch a tent. As the tent was pitched, I went to thank the guy who helped me, who had a former police dog that wasn't tied down. And the big police dog took a chunk out of my leg right here. Now, in Missouri, emergency rooms close at 6 o'clock. I'm like,
They're allowed to close?
yeah, so I guess you're not allowed to have an emergency after 6 o'clock. And so you can ask Bethany, I'm in the van like cleaning and stitching up my own leg because there was nothing else to do. That day was pretty bad. That day was pretty bad. We'll tell you more about those as the year goes on. So the point of today's story is worst day ever. These are all pretty bad days for us. Mom forgets our birthday. RJ, Cherokee tomahawks himself in the leg. Mitchell is always hitting himself in the face. Eric said, well, yeah, Mitchell, you ain't seen nothing yet. Watch this one. Allie, not want to be left out, starts banging her head into the chin-up bar. Judah is playing, cowboys and Indians and getting run through a fence that he shatters with his right thigh just because he can. Those days are bad, all right? Chris is getting, stabbed with a flying piece of PVC. Oh, Chris, it's not that bad. Don't worry, your skull's just showing. You'll be all right, all right? It's really not all that bad. Well, the key is how to overcome these obstacles. How do we overcome these bad days and to always keep them in perspective? So I'm going to tell you a story about a buddy of mine who had a really bad day. Buddy was a big thinker. Like, he always wanted to help people, and he was always looking for the ultimate job where he felt that he could help. And he tried to get a bunch of them, and he got some smaller ones. And when he got a reputation, he all of a sudden gets his dream job. A firm called on the East Coast and said, we want you to run our company. Problem is, you have to move here. Now, he lived in the Midwest, and he's one of the Midwesterners who lived and grew up in the same area like they never left. But he's pumped, he's excited. His wife agrees they have to leave everybody they've ever known behind for him to take this great job. And just before they were about to leave, one of their children gets sick and dies. So they have to bury their son and move. Well, his wife, as would make logical sense, falls into some depression. She does not want to leave one of her children behind, but they have to move. So they pack up a U-Haul, and they're driving to the East Coast. They've got to go just on the outer edge of New York City. And they decide, well, we're not going to stop for the night. We're going to keep going. And they made it to, for whatever reason, they were headed for Baltimore. Good God, we don't know why. And as they were getting gas around Philadelphia, the store was being robbed. And there was a hostage situation. The husband told the wife and the kids, take the U-Haul and just go. I'll stay here and give a report to the police, and I'll get there in the middle of the night. So the wife and kids take off, and he gets there, and for whatever reason, the vice president of the company was at their house when they arrived. And they go, well, where's your husband? Well, there was a hostage situation, so he just left us. What? Is your husband some type of coward? He's not trying to take care of his family? Who is this doofus? How are we going to let him run our company if he can't even take care of his wife and kids? So he arrives in town about 3:30 a.m. in the middle of the night, finding out the whole company is sending out a newsletter about how he punks out on his family. He comes to work the very first day, excited for his new job, and finds out that the board of directors only hired him to be a patsy. Their company was going to break up. The only reason they hired him is so he would be the fall guy. When the company split into different divisions, the board of the directors would stay safe, the stockholders wouldn't be mad at them, and they could blame my buddy. So he leaves his family, he buries a child, all to find out he's a stooge. Man, that day kind of...
Well, that's an awful day.
That's a pretty bad day, isn't it?
That's terrible.
Anybody know who my buddy is? Take a wild guess. You've probably heard of him.
Someone we're talking about.
It's Pat Rover. No, it's not.
Okay, I was like, oh God.
That was Pat Rover's first day here at Chapel Hill High School. All right. My buddy's name is Abraham Lincoln. That was President Lincoln's first day on the job as president. Right? He finds out he's won the election. Him and Mary Todd have got to leave Chicago. One of their children just dies. They're on the train and they're in Washington, D.C. when Alan Pinkerton, remember the Pinkerton Detective Agency? He's in charge of guarding the president, finds out that there is an assassination attempt. Hang on a second. Bill Melega. I'll set him right down there. Thank you.
Well, at least I got a gif of it.
You did. In Washington, D.C., Alan Pinkerton says, look, man, we've got some intelligence that there's going to be assassination attempt on your life. He's like, what did I do? I just got the job. I didn't do anything to these people. Why are they trying to kill me? Well, man, they just don't like you. We've infiltrated some secessionist groups down in Baltimore, and when you get to Baltimore, they're going to kill you. He's like, well, good morning, Baltimore. Nothing. Bethany, can you fix that leg on the tripod? It's struggling. So he's like, well, what are we going to do? I told him that I would go to Philadelphia to celebrate George Washington's birthday. Because I know I'll send my wife and kids on, and then I'll hop a different train in disguise to throw the assassins off my trail. So the wife and kids just keep going, and President Lincoln, dressed up in a wheelchair as an invalid, being pushed onto a train as the invalid brother of one of the Pinkerton's detectives' wives. Going with the president is an old friend from Chicago named Ward Hill Layman. Anybody ever go to the Ford Theater Museum? All right, and you go down the stairs, and there's that case of like the guns and the pistols and all this stuff. Well, that's all the gear Ward Hill Layman had on him. Keep in mind, the president is supposed to be in disguise. Well, this big giant like biker gang Bubba is standing there. He's got like a shotgun and a sheath on his back. He's got a big Bowie knife on his side, a bayonet, pistols all over him like he's Clint Eastwood in Outlaw Josie Wales. He's got brass knuckles and he's standing there. What are you looking at? Well, what are you guarding in that room? Nothing. There's nothing to see here. I don't look unusual. Well, you're a walking like arsenal. Like you're a one-man army. Like what do you got in there? That's really good. Lincoln gets into Washington about 3:30 a.m. When the newspapers find out, they spin it as he abandoned his wife and family, and they draw him in a political cartoon like a little mouse scurrying underground through the sewer system to come up in the White House. And he gets there, and they're like, what is this? My God, I haven't been in town for an hour, and they're already drawing me as a mouse and a coward. What's going on? And he gets in there, and his whole cabinet is there, and they're like, Mr. President, what do you want to do about the developing situation in Charleston? He's like, what's going on in Charleston? Well, you know the Fort Sumter situation. Well, what's going on down there? Well, all right, we have Major Robert Anderson stuck down here at Fort Sumter. Well, what have you guys done? Well, we sent him some food a few months ago, but the Confederates opened fire on it, so the ship turned around. Well, you mean you guys haven't got him out of there? Well, no. Well, all right, what's the plan? Gerald, what's your recommendation? What do you got? Unfortunately, we don't have plans. Tyler, what's your plan?
I don't know.
Lonigan, what's your plan? Martin, what do you got for us? Ethan, what do you got? Well, if we go get them, we might start a war. Naran, what do you think?
Dinner for two.
You and I are going to have dinner? Naran, how's that going to help the guys in Fort Sumter? Naran wants to have dinner with one of the guys in Fort Sumter. All right. Problem is, we can't go get them out of there because I just campaigned on keeping the nation together. You know, so you guys have had months to figure this out. What have you been doing? The best you got is dinner reservations? And something that hasn't been invented yet? What are you buffoons doing? What's happening here? And they're like, well, Mr. President, you need to mojo something up. He also finds out several other installations were also being sieged. Mr. President, it's time. Time for what? Well, you got to go give your inaugural address. But I just got here. I'm trying to deal with the crisis. Can it wait? Oh, no. The press is out front. They want to hear what you're going to do. He's like, oh, my God. So President Lincoln goes out, and we often talk of his second inaugural address, where he talks about, the end, about we're going to forgive, we're going to forget with malice toward none. But his first inaugural speech, the man is under tremendous pressure. No president ever walked into a bigger crisis their first day on the job than Abraham Lincoln. President Roosevelt had been president for a while when Pearl Harbor was bombed. President Bush, yes sir, had been in office when 9/11 happened. So they were already at least in the White House. They had their staffs. So, these things, President, Johnson handling the Kennedy and the Martin Luther King assassinations. Just go ahead, Cam, quickly, man. It's like Velcro, bro. There we go. All right. It's different when you've been on the job for a while and you know how to, manage stuff. He hadn't even gotten in the door. They're already trying to kill him. All right? They're calling him a coward. They're asking him what to do. This is before there's CNN and instant communication. Guys, what's the plan? Well, we've been sitting around a few months waiting for you to, show up. What was Buchanan going to do? None at all. So he's got this big crisis. Now he's got to go tell everybody how he's going to solve it. So you don't get a seat in the Jedi Temple you don't get to be Yoda or Obi-Wan for being a scrub. So when we think of great revolutionary world leaders, people who changed lives or events that changed lives, what comes to your mind? What do you guys think of? Genghis Khan. Alexander the... we don't call him Alexander the Pretty Good, all right? We call him Alexander the Great. Who else?
Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar.
Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi. Shout them out, guys. What we got? Build on those themes.
MLK.
Martin Luther King. What about my man above the door right there?
He's a tiger?
Nelson Mandela. All right. Oh, he's kind of... You can't really see Nelson. What about Rosa Parks? Or my boy back there above Ethan and Avery. All right, Tank Man. All right. Those guys were bold people. They did enormous things that helped shape futures. Harriet Tubman. All right. When you're bold and you're the first one to do it, man, that stuff is not easy. And leadership is difficult, right? Because when you're a leader, you've got to make decisions. What do we do for RJ's leg? Do we just put a Band-Aid on it? Do we elevate it? Or maybe we take him to the emergency room. Tyler is playing Superman off an aluminum ladder. His arm is snapped. Well, we've got to do something immediately. Well, Lincoln has got a little bit more than a hatchet in your, femur and a broken, or tibia, that's what it is. That's it, yeah, all right. And a broken femur. Lincoln's got to go out and deliver an address. And there's a couple things he has to do. And he's kind of, as he's going along, almost making this up. And so he asks head of the Army, Winfield Scott, Winfield, what should we do about Fort Sumter? Oh man, it's impossible to support them. He asks his Secretary of State, William Seward, William, what do you think we should do? Oh man, just get them out of there, all right? Cooler heads will prevail. Well, Lincoln goes out and, in my mind, offers one of these great legendary Jedi speeches, what puts him in the upper pantheon of leadership. And he looks at everything and he says, look it guys, we are all one nation. We keep talking about division. That has not happened. We are all brothers. Every patriot who has spilled blood for freedom since time beyond is watching us. So instead of fighting, let us look to the better angels of our nature. Let's try and avoid conflict. And so what he does, he says, we are not going to try and recapture any United States forts in the southern United States. He does not call them the Confederate States. He's very careful not to use that language. We will not try and recapture any United States governmental institution in the southern United States. But we are going to hold, we are going to occupy, and we are going to possess all United States forts currently in our hands. Right? The ones the southern United States has captured, you can keep. All right? But the forts that are still flying the United States flag in the southern United States, we are going to hold them, we are going to occupy them, and we are going to possess them. If there is any aggression, it will come from someone other than
The United States.
the United States. Very deftly, what has President Lincoln just done? So if anything happens, it's going to happen from the other side. And then he has a letter drafted to the governor of South Carolina, a guy named Francis Pickens. And he says, Governor, I'm going to send a train from Washington, D.C. You can see when this train leaves. When it gets to the borders of your state, you can stop the train. You can search the train. There's going to be nothing on it but food. That food needs to get to my soldiers in Fort Sumter. Again, it's leaving at this time. It will arrive at this time. There's nothing on it but food. You can stop it, you can board it, but that food better get to my soldiers. Anything else will be considered an act of aggression against the United States, an act of treason against the United States. He still hasn't called them the Confederacy. He's like, okay, he delivers his inaugural address. We're going to appeal to the better angels of our nature. The train is coming. If anything happens, Governor Pickens, it's your fault. I've told you everything I can. If there's any problem, it's going to come from you. This government will have no part. And Lincoln walks in and goes, man, can I get a drink of water or something? Holy cow. Remember, this has all been the first couple days. His first day was terrible. Have they gotten any better? No. And Lincoln's been doing this all by himself. He's like, finally, I'm gonna need to get some help. He gets his water, takes a couple aspirin, says, okay, I got this. And he's in the Oval Office working, and an aide comes in and knocks on the door. Yeah, can I do for him? Mr. President, Mr. Alexander Stevens from Richmond is here. He's like, who? Alexander Stevens, the Vice President of the Confederacy? He says, no, I don't know who that is. Well, Alexander Stevens, he's like your best friend. And President Lincoln says, no, not really remembering that. Alexander, who? Alexander Knight? No, he just left. Alexander, Noron, is that one of the guys you've had dinner with? No? Noron doesn't know him, I don't know him. So tell Mr. Stevens, have the captain of the guard usher him from the White House. But Mr. President, it's Alexander Stevens, he's your buddy. You guys hang out, he's Vice President of the Confederacy. And President Lincoln says, well, what's the Confederacy? What's the Confederacy? I don't even know what the heck that is. Now, Lincoln goes back to work, and sitting in his office is Secretary of State William Seward. Now remember, Seward is supposed to be the president, but he's the guy who screwed up at the nominating convention. And so he believes that this idiot hillbilly hayseed, not from Illinois, but from someplace called Illinois, all right, one of the French words, all right, that ain't even like American. We don't know what that is. Parley what? No. Oh, parfait? Yeah, I know what that is. Something. Like a green herb that grows. Parsley. Okay, come on. He's going to be the marionette. He is the puppet master for the stupid hillbilly president. He's sitting in his office, and he sees Alexander Stevens walk by. Al, is that you? Alexander? Yeah, well, what are you doing? Well, I came to see Abraham. Well, what'd you guys talk about? Well, nothing. He won't see me. Says he doesn't even know who I am. Well, you know, come on in here. Tell me what you need. And Alexander Stevens says, well, you know, we're going to need you guys to get the guys out of Fort Sumter. Like, we're the first state to secede. You know, we're drawing up a constitution, and I got soldiers. I got 68 of the guys who didn't leave Robert Anderson. I need you guys to get them out of there, and Abe just won't talk to me. And Seward says, well, look, all right, he's new on the job, okay? He's never really worked in politics before. He's under a lot of stress. Like, you know, his wife is depressed, and he buried a child, and he got here late at night. Everyone's making fun of him, and we really didn't have things ready for him. So my man's just stressed out. Just don't worry about it. I'll have him remove the troops. I'll send some emissaries down there, and we'll take care of it. What do you mean you're going to take care of it? Well, I'll have Abe remove the soldiers from the fort. Oh! Why are we doing this? This is the worst day ever. Miss Green? I'll send him down right now. Dirk! All right. Be gone. Have a good day, sir. All right. Where was I? All right. Dirk, hope everything's okay. I'm sorry. I'm just in character right now.
I was canceled.
I don't know. Apparently not. All right. Oh yeah, you told me you canceled it just for this lesson.
No,
Yeah, right.
I was like, no, I gotta reschedule this. I know I've got all these diseases, but I can't use them.
Well, Dirk, let's kind of get those cured, brother. All right. Go see Mr. Richards. He's had 11 of the 13 deadliest diseases. He's like patient 0. All right, like Will Smith. All right. So anyway, all right. So, you guys ever see Will Smith zombie movie? I Am Legend. He's patient 0 from I Am Legend. So, Seward's like, look, man, I'll have Abraham get rid of the guys. Well, I have your word on that. As William Seward or Secretary of State? Well, yeah, I am William Seward, for God's sake, and yeah, I guess Secretary of State, too. This is a big, big deal. Because William Seward, acting as Secretary of State, has an official governmental position. If anybody recognizes the Confederate States of America, what does recognition mean? Who's a Model UNer? Anybody, any Model UNers in here? Right. To become an independent country, what must you have? Alexander just left and Dirk just left. RJ.
Another recognized country must recognize you as independent.
Exactly. A country that everyone knows has to recognize your existence. Getting recognized as a foreign country is a game changer. It allows you to seek allies. You can bring foreign soldiers into the country. You can get money and weapons and aid if you are seen as a country to exist. Lincoln just was very careful in calling them the Southern United States. He knows who Alexander Stevens is, but he can't meet with them because he doesn't want to legitimize their existence. And a member of his cabinet just did. Secretary of State Seward, we're going to have a cabinet meeting in a few minutes. Can you come in and help us out? Absolutely. All right. All right, fellas. You know, I don't know some of you all that well, but I'm Abraham Lincoln, and we got a situation here down in Charleston, so I'm going to need to know some best case scenarios on how to handle this. Anybody around the table have any ideas? Naran, any ideas? Daphne?
No.
No?
Wait, no, I had one. Dinner.
We are not doing dinner. Douglas?
Not particularly.
Daniel? No? All right. William, what do you got?
I met with Stevens,
Wait a minute. Who is Stevens?
the Vice President of the Confederacy.
Who?
Alexander Stevens, the Vice President of the Confederacy.
The Vice President. Say, wait a minute. Run that by me again. You met met with who?
I met with Alexander Stevens, the Vice President of the Confederacy.
Did anybody tell you to do that?
No.
Why then did you do that? Now remember, Lincoln's 6'4". Seward's a little guy. He's starting to get animated. What did you do that for? I'm not over there. Look at me. What did you do that for?
Trying to get the troops out of Fort Sumter.
Well, what did you say? I've been asking for 2 weeks, and you guys said the best you had was dinner or an airplane. What did you tell him?
I told him I would take care of it.
What do you mean? Say what?
I told him I would take care of it.
You told him you would take care of it.
I did.
You and I will take care of it?
Me, personally.
You, personally. What did you tell him you were going to do?
I was going to get the troops out of Fort Sumter.
On your own authority. You just decided you were just going to go ahead and do this. Do you not realize what you have done? Were you not a lawyer? What are you, some kind of ignoramus? You do not have a clue of what we have done, Mr. Secretary. Well, let me clear it up for you, genius. I know who Alexander Stevens is. He's my best friend, Einstein, but I couldn't meet with him as a member of the Confederate States of America government because that would legitimize him. I just gave a big speech saying I would hold, occupy, and possess all federal installations in the southern United States. Genius, by meeting with him, you made his country actually exist. You communicated a message I had no intention to send. Now we might be at war, and it's your fault. Now get the heck out of here! Go! All right. Thank you, RJ, for sitting in the splash zone. RJ. Nobody enjoys getting yelled at, right? But if you're 5'2" and a 6'4" guy is up in your face screaming at you, it's kind of scary. Now, William Seward is a man of power. He's a governor of New York. He's a current United States senator, and in front of the entire cabinet, this dumb hillbilly just stood up and told him, not only are you an idiot several times, but you did something on your own. Who in God's name told you to do that? To finish it off, you may think you're the president, Mr. Secretary, but I am the president. And now Seward is like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be the puppet master. I'm supposed to just make this guy dance to my every whim, and he just stood up in front of everybody and
Cut the strings.
cut the strings, embarrassed me, fired me. Seward's like, that's not supposed to happen. I'm William Seward. And Lincoln, right there, in the midst of the biggest crisis the country had ever seen, demonstrates to everybody that he's not some dumb idiot hayseed. All of these things he had planned out in his head. He really didn't have time to explain things to everybody because he had just got there. And he also expected guys like the Secretary of State to know what meeting with a foreign representative means. He's like, oh my God, do I got to do everything all by myself? God, jeez. And he looks around for some help and he realizes that he's all alone. He can't go cry on his wife's shoulder because she's upset at the death of her child. She's moved away from home. His cabinet ministers, he finds out, hate him, don't trust him, and thought they were going to control him. So he looks around the White House and says, man, I'm the only one here. The only counsel I have is myself. Man, every now and then you need a buddy. You need Pat Rover to say, hey Rover, what do you think about this? Well, Bill, that's what I do. Well, why'd I ask you? Because it's like talking to myself. All right, but Lincoln didn't even have Rover. All right, he's like, my God, what am I going to do? And he realizes he's all alone, and it's his first day. And the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that, they never got any better. What good day did Abraham Lincoln have? I can think of maybe two. July 3rd, you guys are right, July 3rd, 1863, all right, Gettysburg. And then he finds out the war is over, and he wants to go see a nice play, and he's, oh, man, I can relax, and what happens? Boom, they shoot him. That's Lincoln's best day in the White House. Man, I go to have a dinner, I go to have dinner for two, and I go to a play, and some dude's gotta shoot me in the back of the head. That's Abraham Lincoln's presidency. Our days were bad, all right? You know, PVC pipe in the back of the skull, breaking our arm, beating ourselves with baseballs, hatcheting our leg, having mom forget our birthday. But man, when I'm really having a bad day, oh man, I don't want to go to that faculty meeting, or I don't want to do grades, or I've got a bunch of knuckleheads trying to do test corrections, or I got to go to my in-laws. I'm thinking, well, you know what, at least I'm not Abraham Lincoln. So if you guys take an SAT or an ACT or a college essay and they say, write about leadership or how to overcome obstacles or what is perseverance, just remember good old Abraham Lincoln. Well, they're SAT grader people, let me tell you, or little college essay people, let me tell you a little story about a guy called Lincoln. And this was his first day. Man, it really sucked. It was not very good. Thus almost ends the worst day ever. We've just got rid of William Seward, who does come back, but he eventually learns his lesson. Like, Mr. President, is it okay if I do that? Yeah, that's okay. All right, okay. All right, I'm good. You got it, Abraham. And Lincoln has to take the entire burden. He has to shoulder the entire country on himself for the war years. There's no help coming. And then he's still got to deal with the situation down in Fort Sumter. So that night he sends off a cable that says, hey guys, stay where you are. I will try and get you some food. No matter what, do not fire. If anything happens, make them shoot at you. And be safe on your way to 7th period.